Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name's Jen, and I am your host for the evening. And with me, as always, we have Brian and Henno. Hey, guys.
Howdy.
Hi.
What up, my homies?
Oh.
Yeah, I needed that. That was good.
Stuff and things.
I figured I'd throw a little curveball your way. Mm-hmm. I've been watching some junk TV, and one of the shows is, oh my gosh, what's the name of it? The League.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, in some, just so if you haven't seen that show, it's just, there's some people on there that are just not good humans.
Yeah.
They are just not good human beings. And it's about a group of friends that play a fantasy football league is the basic premise of it. So, but yeah, some of the things they say and do, I don't know. So that was my ode to Andre, for those that do watch the show.
Right.
So. Anywho, who wants to go first? Fine, I will go first.
Isn't
like
silence beautiful?
Yeah.
Silence is awesome. It always outs the people that can't handle it.
Yep.
I can't handle silence. I've never been able to handle silence. So this was kind of where all three of us were lined up, and the two of you guys decided to take a step backwards, and
Yeah.
they're asking for volunteers.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, we just use nonverbal cues,
Yeah.
So.
What we do is Brian and I just slide our chairs back just
Yep.
slightly.
Yep.
That's how he and I know that we're going to hold out.
Yeah.
That's nice. Little
Yep.
signal to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Which will obviously have to change now,
Of course. I just
Nah.
pulled down the curtain.
That's all right. We'll figure it out.
We got another one.
Yeah, like we'll both adjust our glasses or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like baseball signals.
Right.
And they're going to be throwing each other hand signals and hand signs. It's like
Mhm.
having a whole secret language. Oh,
Yep.
wait, there is one that's all about hand signs, isn't there?
Mhm.
That's a secret language.
Well, it's also one with a bunch of hand signs that isn't a secret language. I mean, it's just sign language. So.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was meaning.
Oh, okay. There's also a
know.
bunch of gang signs and, that mean things. And,
True,
Yeah.
true.
Hanno and I are from the streets, so we know all those.
Well, what sound was that? Anyways, well, now that we've, kind of derailed the train and rolled around a little bit on it, the tracks.
Well, we can't really derail it because we didn't really start, so.
It's true.
Yeah.
We're still in the station.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just kind of milling around the lobby, right?
Yeah.
Getting our tickets,
Yep.
seeing the porter, getting our bags to him,
Mm-hmm.
grabbing the kid before he grabs the rail and electrocutes himself.
Yep.
Good catch.
Mm-hmm.
So for the 5 or 6 listeners we have left,
Come on.
I know, not that bad of a beginning.
They
So,
live for this.
Yeah. absolutely. All right, so what have I been doing this last week? Well, what have I not been doing? So, I ended up having a puppy play date, which was pretty awesome. We had 2 dogs come over to meet with our 2 dogs, and we are going to be puppy sitting later in the month for these 2 dogs, while this lovely couple are going off and having a bachelorette party, and then are getting married. So, which is awesome and very exciting to see 2 young people starting off their lives together. So it'll be fun. So we did that, and then Friday, Hubs and I decided to have a date night, and we went to dinner, and we decided before we're going to go to dinner, we're going to go to a local small shopping center area, and there's a place called Cabela's. I don't know if anyone's heard of it before. Kind of a hunting crazy place that has a ton of taxidermy and guns and bows, fish and
Aquariums.
yeah, beef jerky
Camouflage.
More
and
camo than you've ever seen in your life.
Yep.
and ammo is super expensive right now.
Yep.
It is like insanely expensive. 2 to 3 times as much as it was this time last year.
Yep.
There's just a flat out shortage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you can get your hands on it, it's just crazy.
My brother was talking about that the other day when he was over. Actually, he ended up going to some other places to find it instead of places like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was able to find a little bit, but not much.
Like dark places?
No, nothing illegal. just more mom and pop type places than the big chain. Because everybody thinks to go to Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, whatever. Like they, so he went to, I don't remember where he went, but he went somewhere else that was, it's like one of those, oh God, I can't think of what they're called. Basically, they have like farming supplies and stuff like that. So they carry
like Rancher's Outlet.
Yeah, they carry some ammo because farmers need ammo, basically. So that they carry a little bit. They don't carry a lot, but they carry a little bit. So that's where he was able to find some. But it was still expensive. It wasn't, it's not like he got any sort of a discount by going there. It was still, I forgot how much more he said, but he said a good amount more.
Good topic. That's a show.
Yep.
No, not.
And with that,
So we were looking at the various guns because we were thinking about getting one that's going to be more appropriate for my dad to shoot because my dad has expressed interest in shooting in our backyard range. And we're looking at revolvers and different things like that. That might be kind of fun, little historically accurate looking type of gun. So be, whatever. So we're just bouncing around.
Are you looking for like a Colt revolver from like the Old West or something?
No, not an antique gun.
Oh, okay.
But a modern gun that has an old feel to it.
Okay. Because when you said
I
like
say go
historically
with
accurate,
the 50 caliber muzzle loading revolver. Those things are awesome.
Well, it can't be anything with too big of a kick.
Yeah.
Because my dad's got a bad shoulder. So it's got to be something with a smaller caliber so it doesn't knock his shoulder back.
A Red Ryder BB gun.
Airsoft.
Yeah.
So we were looking at that, and then we went out to the vehicle, and the vehicle didn't start.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, because we were driving. We weren't driving one of our regular vehicles. We were driving my late brother-in-law's car that my husband's been fixing up. While he's working all the gremlins, one of the gremlins
Found one.
Yep.
decided to rear its ugly head while we were in Cabela's lot. So we go out.
Well, on the upside, I mean, you can't have a shortage of people that'll have know-how on how to work on it probably out there. Like everyone walking out's probably got like a full toolkit in their car. And yeah.
Well, and it was really, people did offer help.
Yeah,
and
sure. Yeah.
did appreciate it. And my husband is very handy with an engine and with cars. So he kind of had an idea of what might be causing the issue.
It's him.
And so
it was him, wasn't it?
It was.
There's Jen just holding up a mirror.
Yeah.
Found the problem.
Yep.
So we ended up calling roadside.
Yeah.
Through our insurance company. So, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And we're like, okay. We left an automated message. They said they'd call us back. We said, okay. We go dinner. We're having dinner. He's like, haven't heard anything. I'll call again. Calls again. This time he gets a number, like a case number type of a thing, and they said that they will contact the a tow truck company, and they would call us back. We're like, okay, so we're getting further. Still haven't talked to a person yet.
Yeah.
Whatever. So after dinner, we're like, oh, okay. So we're walking around a little bit. We walk back to the car. We're waiting. So we decide to call, and this time we're going to wait on hold until someone picks up.
Oh, boy.
So we waited on hold for an hour and 5 minutes.
What?
Nice.
And
What?
I know. Finally, my husband looks at me, and he's like,
What?
find a tow truck driver. We're paying, we're getting it towed, and we're going home. I said, okay, I can do this. So I call, but then it's like 10 o'clock at night. So I'm calling all of the local places, and nobody's picking up. I'm getting voicemails everywhere. I'm like, okay. He happens to remember this place that's not too far up the road. It's another city, but it's not that far away. His friend lives there. Well, his friend put his truck into his pond, and this guy came and pulled his truck out of the pond. So that's why my husband remembered the guy's name.
All right. Yeah.
So we call him up. We're like, hey, you want to come get us? And he said, you know what? I was just going to crack open a beer, but I will. So he's like, don't worry about it. I'm coming your way.
No, he meant he was going to crack open that beer. Like...
He comes, and he, Dave's towing, comes, and he tries to get the car started, and it is the starter, which my husband kind of had figured out by that point anyways that it was the starter, but he confirmed it, puts it in the puts it on the back of the tow truck, and we all jump in. He drives to our house, and he puts it in the barn, And my husband looks at him and goes, well, since it's the end of your shift, you want a beer? And by now it's like, well, 11:30, midnight.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, yeah, sure. So he goes and grabs a beer. My husband grabs a beer. We're just standing around, exchanging stories, just shooting the shit, excuse language, having a good old time and stuff. And, it was a couple beers later and stuff. And he's like, you guys probably think my name's Dave, don't you? And we're like, well, Dave's towing. Yeah. Makes sense. Would be Dave. And he's like, no, it's actually Ralph. He's like, I bought the company from another guy named Dave.
Right. And there's no point in changing the name, Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody knows Dave. So I'm Ralph, but I look like Dave.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. So it was very interesting. So that was my Friday
Then
night.
he's like, I bet you thought I was a tow truck driver, didn't you?
Exactly.
I'm actually a florist.
Yeah. Huh. Well, you did pretty well at the tow truck thing. I only do that when I've had a few beers. Yeah.
Exactly.
It was kind of one of those like kind of wacky wild nights.
Yeah.
But the cool part about it is I didn't freak out. I didn't have anxiety. I didn't lose my mind on stuff. I was cool as a cucumber. I just was rolling with the flow. And that's not necessarily usual for me. So I'm like, okay, so this is kind of cool. And then my mother-in-law, we were supposed to call my mother-in-law back Friday night. We didn't because of everything going on. We called her Saturday morning, and she wanted to come down. So I'm like, yeah, come on down. So she came down. We took her to the zoo. We took her out to dinner. We ended up having a kind of a quiet Saturday. And this was my whole, like, nothing's going to happen this weekend. This was my starting out. If you guys listened to the last episode, you heard me talking about having a no plans weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this has been my no plans weekend so far.
Yeah, well, good thing you didn't have plans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So Sunday morning, I took my mom and my mother-in-law out to breakfast. Finally, Sunday afternoon, I got to my no plans weekend and was able to have a few hours of doing laundry and cleaning up the house and getting ready for and Sunday afternoon, I started sneezing nonstop. And then my sinuses kicked in and everything got swollen and painful and stuffy and it was not pretty. So not pretty that I took a Sudafed around 3 or 4 o'clock, a 12-hour Sudafed, like the over the pharmacy counter stuff, not the one that you can buy on the shelf.
Right.
Like the good stuff. I took one of those. That helped. But about 1 a.m, I was up again and I couldn't sleep, and I ended up taking the NyQuil stuff from behind the counter of the pharmacy. Yeah. So that helped me somewhat. But Monday, because I was still kind of congested and stuff, I decided I was going to work from home because I didn't want to be that person in the office sneezing and whatnot, and everyone's staring at me because, everything going on right now.
Yep. Yeah, I ran into that. When I was in Kroger yesterday, I had or a couple days ago, whenever it was, I had a sneezing fit while I was in there because I walked by. There was a woman that had some perfume or something on, and I have allergies, so it no more than hit my nose, and I just sneezed like 5 times, and it's funny, you can just see people even still just, and spread away from you like, and it's like, oh, good to know. I do is when I'm in here is make myself sneeze and people get away from me.
Right. And that's kind of what, so I talked, I texted my boss and I told her, I said, I don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable. I truly feel it's only a sinus cold type of a situation, but to be extra safe, I will stay home.
That's how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it should be, is if you feel as though, not just because of the coronavirus, but just that's how it should be anyway. If you wake up and you're like, whoa, I don't know if this is a cold or if this is just like a sinus thing, or allergy type of thing. It's like, if, the ability to work from home for so many people would eliminate so many people going to work sick and spreading that to everybody, like, and I appreciate that you did that, and of course it does help you at the option, of course,
Yeah, it's nice that I had that option.
Right.
And then,
because I'll bet
Tuesday,
if you had to use a personal day, you probably would have went to work, right?
probably.
Yeah. See, it's just so backwards. It should not be that way. It's different if you're working like somewhere where you absolutely couldn't or something, but I don't know. Anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then yesterday, and then Monday night I stayed home because again didn't want to go out and get anyone else uncomfortable.
Right.
I don't think I would have made them sick, but you never know, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I went back to work yesterday, and then last night I had my therapy, which was really good. And, she's just the way she listens and asks questions and stuff. I mean, she just is really good at her job, I guess, is more than what I'm kind of going for.
Yeah, you found a good fit. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a really good fit, and I lucked out in the first shot. But I felt really good and stuff. And my husband's still home from work this week, and I came home and he's like, "What'd you say about me?" And I'm like, "Not about you. It's about me."
Yeah.
I love it.
And he kind of looked at me and smiled, and he's like, "No, really, what'd you say about me?" I'm like, "It wasn't about you. It was about me. It's my therapy. That's the point."
Yeah.
And he asked a third time, and I said, "Do you have a guilty conscience?
Yeah.
Are you, maybe you should think about that." And he's like, "No, I don't have a guilty conscience." I'm like, "Okay."
Like, I don't know. You asked me 3 times.
I'm like, "No." I mean, and I just reiterated to him, therapy is about me.
Yeah.
Anytime I start going off one way or another and start talking about other people's feelings or other people's thoughts on things, she brings me back.
Yeah.
Because this is me centric. Right. And it's talking about me and my feelings and my thoughts and things that are affecting me.
Yeah. Not to mention, it's a safe space to where you have the freedom to say and feel, your truths, and it's really no one else's business unless you decide you want to tell them. Like I've talked about it on here, where I'll share some stuff I talk about in therapy, and then there's times where I keep stuff to myself because it's just, like you said, it's about me, and it's, not for anyone else. It has no bearing on anyone else's life, really. It's just me working on myself. So,
Yeah, exactly. And the only reason I brought that up was, it was because I wanted to reiterate that for the, listening audience that, therapy is a great tool to be utilized, and it is about you and you bettering yourself. And, and that's what makes it awesome and wonderful.
I've told people before, it's like, even if you're not dealing with a mental health situation or whatever, it's like therapy can still be so beneficial, because you walk in, like I said, you know that person's job is to receive whatever you feel you need to tell them. And, they offer what guidance they can offer and such, but it's sometimes just that dump of emotion can be so cathartic that alone could just be beneficial, because it can help people get rid of stress, all this other stuff. It's like, I really and truly feel like most people, if they were going in openly and willing to share, like, would benefit so much from this. And it's so not the same as just going out and talking to your friend or a family member or something like that. There's just, it's such and until you experience it, you don't quite get it. But yeah, like you were saying, that was the reason I brought up what I did about it being a safe space and all that kind of stuff too, was again, so that, people don't feel pressured. If you go to therapy and you come out and someone's trying to get you to talk about what you talked about, that's none of their business. Even if all you did was talk about them the whole time, that's none of their business. Much like, all the sayings and stuff that are out there about, what other people say about me behind my back is none of my business kind of a situation. It's like it all falls in that, is that it doesn't, so.
Yeah, and then tonight, I opted out of going to my Wednesday meeting, and I've been going to a meeting Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and I didn't go to anything this week because I felt that I overstressed myself, and now I needed to take a break. And then starting next week, I can work on my balance.
Yeah.
So that's my goal.
Okay. Well, that's good, because I think, like Heno brings up a lot of times, is that's a plan of action.
Yeah.
That's not coming from a place of you just going, I just couldn't do it this week, and they, be like, okay, so what's your plan going forward? Be like, I don't know. At least you've kind of put some thought into, what you're going to do going forward. So that seems like a good step.
Yeah. So that's what I've been up to.
Mm-hmm.
How about you guys? What's going on?
It's funny you mentioned the long wait on the phone, because I had one of those too.
Oh, really?
I had a dental appointment, a cleaning scheduled for Monday, and something I ate just did not agree with my stomach, or I had a hint of food poisoning. I don't know which it was, because it was a rough night, and I felt nauseous almost till about 6 or 7 o'clock Monday night, and I just couldn't shake the nausea. I took some Pepto-Bismol, and it didn't really help, and I just was miserable. And it's weird, because later in the day, I was, out with my mom. We had to get groceries, which I did not want to go do, because I felt like hot death, basically, and while we're out, she mentioned getting something to eat, and I'm like, I don't even know what to get. Nothing sounds good. I don't really want to eat, And I was like, well, I'll get some chicken nuggets. That's bland, not bland, but you know what I mean? There's nothing in that that should upset my stomach. There's, and, that was the right call. I think I needed something like that. And then I felt better. I laid down for a little while, and then, finally felt better. But, when I woke up feeling that, or was still up feeling that way, and I'm like, well, the last thing I want to do is go get turned basically upside down for half an hour, because I feel like, yeah, well, anyway, it just didn't feel like a good idea. Plus, I just didn't, when you feel bad, you just want to lay in bed, and that's how I felt. I just wanted to lay in bed and just be left alone, basically. So I called the dentist office, like, right away, like at 8 in the morning, I think is when they open, and I called, and I expected there to be, a few in front of me, because it was a Monday, and it's right at open, and they said 4, and I was like, okay, whatever. Like 20-some minutes later, there were still like 4 calls, and then it ticked to 3, and then a while later there was still 3 in front of me, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on here? And then it finally gets to 2, and I'm like, okay, we're getting close. But then I'm like, man, it's been forever. I pull my phone away from my face and look, and I'm like, it's been over 40 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And there's only been 2 calls pulled off this queue. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Like, what is taking so long? And finally, after an hour, I was like, I'm done. Like, my phone needed charging, and I was like, I'm just done. I was trying to call as soon as I can, because, a lot of places, they want you to give 24 hours, but I couldn't, because it's Monday. So they're not open, plus I felt fine Sunday until late Sunday night. Then I didn't feel fine, So I was calling as early as I could, because when you call places early like that, they can move other people up. They can go ahead and, if someone shows up early, they can just go ahead and take them, whatever, So, or if someone has a, happens to come in, they can go, hey, we actually have an appointment today, whatever, So I was trying to be as considerate as I could be, but I could not get through. And so I hung up, I called a little bit later. There was like 7 calls. I call back a little bit later. There's still 6 calls. And I was like, what is going on? And a couple of the times I called my, I got a thing that's, this is Verizon Wireless. The call can't be completed because of something on the other end, basically. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe they're having phone problems. And I'm like, well, now I'm in a situation because my options, are basically have someone take me up to my dentist, which is only a few minutes up the road, but have someone literally take me up there so I can cancel my appointment, which seems ridiculous, or not show up, and I don't want to be that person, but that's what I ended up doing. I just didn't, because I didn't really have a ride option at the time. So, and it wasn't even one of those where, well, if I'm going up there, I might as well. There was no way I was going to sit there because, like I said, I kept feeling like I was going to get sick. So there's no way I want to sit there with them, tooling around in my mouth for half an hour.
Right.
So, yeah, it was, but man, I did not handle it with the grace that you mentioned. I was furious because, and then once I realized that it might be a phone issue, I was like, okay, well, this makes sense, because otherwise it's like whoever they're talking to, they need to get better about getting people off the phone, like that's insane. Or they got to get somebody else helping, because that's stupid. You shouldn't have to wait that long. So I don't know what the story is on that yet, but So Monday was just a trash day for me, top to bottom for sure. Until much later. And I had an appointment with a social worker at my doctor's office to set up. They have a program, since I think I've talked about it here before. They don't have a psychiatrist right now, so this will allow me to have access to a psychiatrist's evaluations as far as like for my medicines and stuff like that. So, and then my primary care doctor will prescribe the medicines at the advice of the psychiatrist, because my primary care doctor does not, his specialty is not mental health medicines and such. So, and I was like, okay, cool. So I just go do the first interview with her, and she's super nice. I've met with her before, so I already kind of, knew her, and, sat through that whole thing, which was, given all my records and all this other kind of stuff, and, try to pull medicines that I was on originally, which was not easy, but I did, which made me feel good, because a lot of times I have issues with my memory at times to where I can't pull stuff, but I was, but anyway, so that all went well, and I have another meeting with her, because she's going to talk to the psychiatrist, and then I have another meeting with her coming up, and she said basically, I think once or twice a month, she's going to just call and, hey, is there anything new, basically? So I was like, okay, cool. That's exactly what I need, because I don't feel like I need an adjustment in medicine right now. But I don't like having it floating out there that if I do need an adjustment, now I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I like having a plan, a course of action. Like right now, I know all I got to do is call her. She'll call. I hate the fact that we have to phone relay, but that's what has to be done, because, that's just how it has to be done. Unfortunately, I found out that when I was in that group before, where I was working with a University of Michigan psychiatrist, there was the one I had, and then another one that were doing that program, and it's the other doctor is the psychiatrist. I was like, oh, that's too bad, because all along I was like, I would have just stayed with the guy I had if that was an option, and that, and I was like, oh, that's, too bad, because he already would have known about me. He would have already seen my records and all that kind of stuff, but oh well, it's not much I can do there. So, but I had to go to my doctor to talk about blood work, which came back, and my sugar's still too high, but it came down because he put me on another medicine a few months ago. It's come down a little bit, but he's still, it's still not where he wants it. So I have to keep working on that, which I want to do anyway, because, I hope I'm not speaking out of school here, and if so, I'll cut this out, Jen. But after seeing what your uncle went through, I absolutely don't want to deal with like a high level of diabetes, so
That's correct.
yeah, I very much want to get this lower so that, for so many reasons, but just because I don't want that kind of life.
Yeah. Yeah, basically to give people a little background, my uncle got diagnosed as diabetic in his late 40s, early 50s, and pretty much started losing body parts from that point on. So they would he would get sores, they'd get basically gangrene, and they get removed. So started with toes, then became feet, then it became leg up to the knee, then it became fingers, then So
I didn't
really
realize that it had gotten to fingers. Wow. Yeah.
So it was a very, very difficult road for him and for his family. So
yeah, and like I said, that's it's one of those times in life where you see something with other people and you just go, oh, okay, I got to make sure, that I don't, like I take that as a warning kind of a thing. Like, hey, this isn't something I want. I need to make some changes. Plus, be 43 this year, and it's, you're hitting that point of life to where I just don't want to be as fat as I am. I don't want, I want to get off of medicines, that kind of stuff. So it's like, I'm really feeling more of that in like a pressure for that. I mean, internal pressure, of course. No one, my doctor, of course, wants me off, would love to take me off of medicines because I've gotten, in better health wise. Yeah, he would love it because he absolutely hates putting me on anything new, but, so, going in there, it was weird though. The weird part, and I'm divulging this info, so it's, no big deal, but, my liver enzymes were still up, which I've, for anyone who, if you've listened to Salty Language, I had issues before. That was protein, but they've kept an eye on my liver enzymes because they've been high. Now, odds are it's probably from, bad food choices in life and such, not enough fiber, blah, blah, too many fried foods, that type of thing. It's just like fatty liver kind of enzymes. But he wanted me to get more blood work done because he wanted me to be tested for hepatitis. And he's like, have you ever been exposed to it? And I was like, no. Like, I've never... Like, the only risk I would have really had would have been, like, a blood transfusion. When I had my knee surgery, I think they used some, but that was my own blood. So I don't, and that would be about it. I don't really know of anything else. Now I know there's various types of hep and there's different ways of of getting it and such. So I haven't heard back, which, I just assuming I don't, because I don't, like I said, I don't ever know of being exposed to it. But it's still weird, when you're waiting on something, even if you don't think, like, they'd be like seriously, if I took an HIV test, even though I'm 100% sure I don't have it, I'd still be nervous until I have confirmation, a little bit. That's just how my brain is. But, yeah.
Well, do you remember the, when I had my ankle surgery?
Yeah.
And they made me do the pregnancy test?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Same idea, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
so, I mean, I told her there was no way that I could possibly be pregnant. And Brian and I were dating at the time. And, well, I guess it's kind of a funny story, because this was I was a teaching hospital, and the woman came in to check me for, she's my anesthesiologist. Or assisting my anesthesiologist, and she looked at me and she stopped and she's like, oh, and I said, oh, and she's like, yeah, were you dropped on your head as a child? And I stopped and I looked around and I'm looking for the cameras, I'm looking for somebody playing a practical joke on me. And like, no, I was not dropped on my head on a child that I know of. And she's like, have you suffered brain damage? And I'm like, no. Can I ask why you're asking these questions? She's like, well, your eyes are dilated at 2 different sizes, and that's usually a sign of brain damage. You may want to talk to your parents. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, thank you very much. She leaves, and my mom and Brian come into the bedside, before they take me away for my surgery. And I look at Brian, and I'm like, hey, Brian. He's like, what? I'm like, good news. I'm not pregnant. He's like, hey, that is good news. I'm like, yeah, that's it. It's like, hey, Mom. She's like, yes. I'm like, did you drop me on my head as a child? And she stops, and without skipping a beat, she's like, not on my watch. Must have been your dad.
It's exactly what someone would say. No.
Like, So, yeah, but my crazy ass story. But, so all of that for basically, waiting on tests is never fun.
Yeah. So I said, I don't assume it is. He's just, he's just being thorough, just ruling anything out because, the first question he asked me is, do you drink a lot? And I said, no, and then, he asked me, how much do you drink and all that. And I was like, I went out with Tony the other night, just kind of impromptu thing. And I had like 5 beers. That's the most I've had. And I don't know how long, like I rarely have more than like 2, and I was like, so, and he goes, okay, it's not alcohol. I'm like, no, I can't imagine it is because I probably will go weeks before I have another alcoholic drink. It's not like something I do every day even. So, we'll see. But, yeah, so it's overall it was, the blood work and stuff. He was pretty happy with most of it. So that was good. My cholesterol's finally more where he wants it, overall. And, I still could work on it a little bit, but at least it's in the range where he wanted it, where it's been high for a while. So, between changing diet a little bit and the medicine I'm on seems to have, gotten that where it should be. So that's good. And then, so that's, I was trying to think. That's been about it. I'll tell you, one last thing. The, how you mentioned about staying home from work, to be considerate and stuff was Monday while I was out. It hit me that while I was out and feeling the way I was, I'm like, I didn't even think about it because I was out in a grocery store and stuff and I didn't have a mask on. And I was like, I really should be wearing one because, mild flu-like symptoms are, a potential feeling of COVID. And I was like, I got to get better about that. That if I do feel that way, I think we're going to end up back with mask mandates anyway, but, because I was just reading that our area has started to see rises in numbers, so I have a feeling it's coming. But the fact is, just in case, because I could have literally walked through a store and spread that to people, and I could have anyway, and been asymptomatic, but you know what I'm saying? It's like if you've got something that could potentially fall in there, and I don't really feel like that's an overreaction or anything. It's just a courtesy, that's just being thoughtful of others. And I kind of, wasn't mad at myself, but I was I was a little disappointed that I didn't think of that, because I've tried as hard as I can to be as considerate about, as much as I can through all this. And I kind of felt like, whoa, buddy, you slipped right back into that normality real quick there. And you need to pump the brakes sometimes. And remember, we're still fighting a pandemic. It is not over. So, I think it was kind of a good reminder for me. And, even though like I said, I think it was just something I ate just did not agree with me. Because again, later that day I felt fine. So it, and I don't have any of the other symptoms, like loss of taste or smell or any of that stuff. But, still just a bad idea. So Anyway, that's, I think, I was wrong. That isn't the last thing today. I was in the store, and there was a woman who was not paying attention to her children, and her children were of the ages of, one was 100% 18 because she asked him how old he was, because him and his siblings were playing with, like, the canes that they have over in the pharmacy.
Oh.
And she was like, how old are you? She called the one over, and he's like 18, and she's like, you know better. And she's like, them, I can see. And in my head, I'm going, one of them's probably 15 and the other's like 10. They clearly should know better. Like, this is bad parenting at this point. This is not like, oh, they're 4 years old or they're 2 or something. Like, no, those are grown-up kids. They should know better. You don't grab and play with a bunch of stuff in a store. That's not cool. But whatever. She put an end to that, and I was like, okay. Then they started running around the pharmacy, like all the aisles right by the pharmacy, running up and down. There were 2 women trying to do stock stuff, and they're running around them and all this. And in my head, I'm going, one of these employees should say something to them. Like, hey, how about you stop that? Because we're trying to, we don't want anyone to get hurt. I get up, get the medicine I'm there for, turn around, start to walk out. Kid comes right out of the aisle. I didn't even see him, and I dropped him onto the floor. I mean, because I'm not super tall, so when he turned or ran, and the way I was walking, I was starting to turn to my left a little bit, so he caught full shoulder right in the middle of his chest, and I mean,
wow,
yeah, I basically decleated him without really trying to. I mean, I trucked him, and I immediately apologized to him, and then the woman's like, "Hey, watch where you're going." And I look, because in my head I'm going, she has to be talking to him, because I know she ain't talking to me. That was the first. I immediately went into that, like, and she's like, "You ran him over," and I'm like, "He shouldn't be running in the store." I'm like, and I looked at her and I said, "Learn to parent." And she's like, "How I parent's none of your business." The pharmacist walks up to the counter and goes, "Yeah, you need to stop them from running around. This is getting out of hand." And I just kind of looked at him with that, like, that's right, like, and she goes, "Well, maybe I'll go somewhere else." And he's like, "Please do."
Awesome.
And I was like, yeah. And I like I said, I apologized to the kid because I did not mean to destroy him.
Take him out.
Yeah. Well, he had like house shoes on and he, slippers on.
Yeah,
I took him out of his slippers. So,
wow.
like I said, and because I was walking kind of fast, and like I said, and as I turned, he came. It's similar to like if you were gonna like fake punch somebody and then they turn into your fist.
Yeah.
Like you hit them way harder than you weren't throwing a good punch. It's just the physics of it. You're walking into the force, and that's why I was just like, I looked at him again and I said, "I'm really sorry." And he was like, "No," he's like, "I'm sorry I ran out in front of you." I was like, okay, well, enough to say you're sorry and what you did was wrong. Maybe stop running around the store. So, but man, my tolerance just dropped as soon as she said, "You watch where you're going," because I immediately had the "Do you know who I am?" kind of like attitude,
Right?
And it wasn't even like I'm the adult here, It was seriously just a don't run around the store, you won't get ran over, because if he was walking, he would have been able to, he would have seen me or stopped, but because he was running, he right into me. So yeah, I like I said, I hope he's not hurt in any way. I don't think he was. He seemed fine, but like I said, I was sorry for that, but I was not sorry.
They still bounce at that age.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Is like, I'd be like, you're all right. Dust yourself off, you'll be all right. Yeah. So yeah, it was just kind of like whoops, But
right.
What are you gonna do? So then I just left. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Hanno, how about you? What you
Yeah.
been up to?
You run anybody over?
No,
Oh.
it feels like I ran myself over.
Oh, well, that's fun.
Yeah. I think it was it Tuesday? I think it was Tuesday. I had done so much braining by 11 o'clock. I was looking through some building plans, trying to organize them, and I'm just putting them on the floor so I could, in the middle of the office, just so I can put sticky notes on the pages I want copied, and I just laid on the floor and just did a quiet little meditation for a moment, and the property manager just walks by, doesn't even say a thing. I'm just literally lying on the floor on my back.
Yeah, it's just Hanno.
No, I just think it's funny. Doesn't even dip their head in and be like, "You okay?" All right,
I was I'm in the middle of the office, right in front of the front door.
Yeah.
I was just this feels good right here, right here. Yeah,
probably
that's
just
fine.
he's probably just stretching his back or something,
Yeah, I was just okay. Then by the time we got to the afternoon, I've had a couple things I wanted to do all week, or a few.
Really quick,
Yeah,
how great would it have been if you knew they were coming back an hour or so later to lay down again real quick? Sorry.
Perfect. But I was I just need to destroy something or do something just to feel like I accomplished something. So we had this steel I-beam installed in our central plant in order to remove a piece of equipment from our massive air conditioning unit this year. And it's real high tech, tight clearances, really tight. And so they put these I-beams in, and then they put a trolley that rolls on it, and it's got all the little hoist stuff on it. Well, it had to be a special low profile design. It was $11,000.
Wow.
I know. And when it showed up, it's in a crate. It's big. Well, I hadn't looked at the specs on it. And I told the company that put in the I-beam, I told Craig, I said, he's like, do you want to order this? Because, if we order it, it'll cost you some more money. I'm like, no, I want you to order it. I want you to bring it up here, and I want you to install it. So he ordered it. It got shipped to the Sharon's calling me.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm gonna. Hi, is this important? Yeah, I'm gonna on the phone on the podcast. Oh, he got skunked. Oh, that's perfect.
Oh boy.
This goes on with everything. Okay, great. Well, we have the skunk juice.
Oh no.
Okay, all right. I'll let you know if it stinks when you walk in the house. Great, awesome. Thank you. Bye. See, I knew it was going to be important.
Yep.
Yeah. So this thing is in this. I finally looked at. Like I said, I hadn't really looked at it, and I finally looked at this. But it's almost 400 pounds. I'm like, I'm going to need a hoist to bring in the hoist. So I asked. I asked him. I said, I want you to order. I want you to bring it up here. I want you to put it in. Right? They have the equipment. They have the manpower.
Right.
He brought the crate up and just left it. Then when they asked about it, he's like, "Oh, that's all I'm doing is bringing it here." I'm like, I would have just had them drop ship it straight to me if I was going to be the one to install it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because again, like you said, had you ordered it, you would have saved money. But...
Well, exactly. And I would have been, and I was just like, I want you to bring it up here. I want you to put it in. You don't have to give me an estimate. Time and materials is fine. Call it an open PO. Just because it was going to be tight clearances.
Yeah.
So I was angry enough at that point where I'm like, okay, this is perfect. So I break open the crate and I'm like, I grab the bobcat. I first tried to just drag it over onto a dolly and that didn't work. Next thing you know, I dropped it on the ground. I'm like, okay, I grab the bobcat, some chains, hoist it up, drop it on the dolly, roll it over the position. I'm looking at this thing, and right then Omar walks in. I'm like, how are we gonna get that up there? I'm like,
yeah.
I don't even know if four people could lift it.
Yeah.
It was heavy.
Right.
So the next thing you know, we got pipes going across here. We got come-alongs and chains and 2x4s and 4x4s.
Nice.
And jacks. And the two of us just manhandled that thing into position, got it into place. I'm like, yes. And I was literally looked like somebody hosed me down with water.
Oh,
I'm in a boiler room, right?
Oh,
It is
God.
so hot in there.
Yeah.
But it felt so good. I was like, thank you. I just wanted to feel like I got something done today.
Yeah.
And it hasn't stopped. It's been like that all week. But the good news, we had a staff meeting, and so our board president came in on Monday and was like, your body language isn't so great. I'm like, you think?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm freaking tired and I'm burnt out. Like, I didn't say it like that. I was just like, I said, she's like, is there anything wrong? And I'm like, well, yeah, I have some concerns. I honestly do.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'm like, we haven't had a staff meeting in 3 weeks. She's like, well, you're going to have one this week. I know. I'm like, for sure. I was like, okay, great. So we had our staff meeting. We ended up around the boardroom table, and at least I got to express my concerns, and everyone heard them and understood them and acknowledged them, and no commitments, because we can't. We just don't know. But it was at least nice. And this is the part of, I know staff meetings are annoying for those of you that want to get out there and go, but it really is useful for even, we're talking a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. We just come together and agree on a few things and just connect.
There's a reason there's a huddle in football before every play, because get everyone on the same page, and then let's get after it, And
if anything, it's like, okay, maybe we don't know exactly what's going to happen right now, but I know I'm on the right track, and that the things that we're listening to each other. So that was awesome. My win for the week is that I haven't killed the dog, which is why I took the phone call, because I figured it was going to be either he's dead because he ran in front of something, or well, Skunked's good enough. He deserves it though. Yeah, he's just he's El Destructo. I'm just like it's like a toddler.
Yeah. Like 6 months, is he? Or not quite yet?
He's 8.
8 months? Yeah.
It's just that he's got attitude now, and it's and I just don't have. I really need to. This is the part where it's my own fault, and I have to own it. Is that he needs to be, I know what the result is if I work just like myself. Mm-hmm. If I work on me, it's a better me, and if I work on my dog with my dog, it's a better dog.
Yeah,
it has always been that way, and in all aspects. And I'm just so tired when I get home from work. And the thing that's weird is, like, I'm so tired, but I end up staying up late still, and that doesn't help me. And I
always found that to be really tough, because I used to do the same thing. Like, when I was doing, I was going to school full time and working full time, and I'd get home from whichever was the last thing that day, and I'd be exhausted. But, homework aside, obviously if I had homework, I had to do that. But even on the nights where I didn't really have anything, I would still stay up, because I'm like, I gotta have a semblance of my time. Like, I still want that, like, playing video games. I still want, even though I'm like, half asleep while I'm doing it, it's like, I feel like I still have to have that. Because if not, it's like, I feel like I'm not living for any reason. Like, I'm just working to exhaustion every day. So I used to push myself into where, I was like 3-4 hours of sleep, get up, do it all over again. And then just, when I'd finally have a day off, all I would do is sleep, basically. So yeah, is that why you do the same thing, or is like just so you still have those things? Yeah, that's part of the thing.
Is that, yeah. Like I get home and I still want to do I still want to do my routine, but it takes me a little while to get to it. And by that time, it's already gotten later. And it's like, I still want to go out and do, water the plants and, bird bath and blah, blah, blah. And like I said, play little video games, have some food, watch some TV, or just zone, which I usually don't do. I'm on the computer working on music stuff or that kind, I have been actually playing more guitar lately, which has been really great. I've made a point to, pick up my instrument and do that. And that's been it's keeping me connected with something that I just don't want to neglect it.
Right.
But with all that said, I am very satisfied at work right now, and like just like yesterday, I sweating my butt off, came home, was just too tired to even get in the shower. Like, that's right, I had a podcast last night, so by the time I got the routine stuff done, did the podcast, I'm like, okay, now I just want to veg for a while. get up in the morning, I realize I'm like, oh, I didn't give myself enough time to go to the shower. I'm like, all right, extra deodorant, hit the cologne. And then today I'm literally crawling in sewer vaults.
Oh.
And I mean, I smell right now. You can't it just gets on your hands and nothing washes it away.
Your poor house after you, and now, the dog coming in after
Benny's
being
gonna come
skunked.
in, he's going to be skunked. Yeah. It's just,
You're going to have to air your house out till like December.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm very satisfied with work right now, and I'm okay. Like this is the month that we send one of the employees off on vacation. Get in your 2 weeks. Get those hours, get those PTO hours down, and so we're extra short staffed, but everything feels good. And after our meeting, Omar was like, because we have so many people at my work right now are owners. And they're very they want to get things done, and I get it, but it's just not our usual thing. We usually have time to work on the stuff that we take care of behind the scenes, so to speak, the stuff that nobody ever gets to see, and we're just not doing them. We're just not getting it done, and it's
and that always ends up being a problem because like those people don't necessarily know all the little stuff that you do behind the scenes. So when they're like, hey, do this, they think in their head it's like, well, all you had to do was what I told you to do, because it's like they just think that like, gnomes show up overnight and magically do all the other stuff.
And that was my thing this week is I'm trying to just be very conscientious of where we came from, and that at what point do I get to put my foot down and say this needs to get done?
Yeah.
And I'm asking that as a question. I'm not telling anybody what has to happen. I'm doing it collectively, and it felt really good to do that in the meeting, to just say, at some point these things do have to happen.
Yeah.
And we will put them into a priority list of does this have to happen now or not? But oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. Holy shnikes. Oh, wow. Yes, it's bad.
For those who haven't figured it out, Henno's wife just brought the dogs back in.
Home.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And Benny the puppy got skunked.
Oh, it is foul. Like my eyes are starting to water.
Wow.
Guys, I need to go deal with this.
Yeah,
so.
Totally understandable. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a good night. Check out Moving the Needle podcast.
Where can we find you, Henno?
I add Ida Henno on Twitter, or the L Hummingbird Henno Hider on Facebook and Messenger, and we're gonna be we went and all saw Old, the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie, and and we're gonna release that podcast in a week. So it's so much fun when doing the podcast about a movie was better than the movie.
Ooh, all right then. I can't wait to hear about that one. All right, see you, Henno.
All right, bye.
Wow.
Oh, goodness. So that was Henno's week. And it's continuing.
It's fun when stuff like that can kind of just unfold live. It's one of those where, I certainly wouldn't want to like cut that out because the his reaction to because I watched him walk in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was waiting, and I thought Sharon left the door open because of the smell, and I realized that Bogart hadn't come in yet. He's a little older, so he's just taking a casual stroll up the steps, and and then his reaction was just great. Oh God, I feel bad for him though, because that's got to stink so bad.
I think it was Benny that got skunked. Maybe it was Bogart.
Yeah, no, it was Benny. Yeah.
It was a Benny?
Yeah,
okay.
because Benny's just been a real handful lately, and that's just another a little more on there. So, oh, man.
Well, I think we're about at an hour anyways, so we could probably just do our wrap-up.
Yeah, I think so, too, because we are. I was just going to say, that we're sitting at about an hour, so.
All right, folks. Well, we had a lot to talk about tonight, obviously, and we know that you have your own thoughts and critiques or positive comments or questions or pretty much anything you feel like telling us, we'd love to hear it. And you can reach out to us. You know what to do. You can reach us at the Crazy Life Podcast .weebly.com is our website. The Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com is our email address. If you'd like to reach out to me direct, you can reach me on the Twitters at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. And you heard Henno's stuff. And Brian, how about you?
Really quick, you can also find Henno's other podcast, Moving the Needle. You can find at MTN Pod. I don't know if he mentioned that or not. So on Twitter, you can find me on Twitter at Stunami. My other podcast can be found on Twitter at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show's not safe for work, and it's just me and my best friend, and we just talk about kind of, what's happened in our lives over the week. And like this past week, we realized right before we recorded, basically, that we had just passed the 10-year mark for doing podcasts, because our first episode launched on August 2nd of 2011. So,
oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's been just a couple of days past 10 years now since we posted. Now, we recorded that a few weeks before that, but when we posted it, it was August 2nd. So
that's insane.
Yeah, so it makes sense though, right? 521 episodes. If you take one off of there, 10 years at 52 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh! Congratulations.
Thank
you. That's quite a milestone.
Yeah, it's so amazing, especially thinking about how the fact that, again, I'll be 43 this year. We've done that show for 10 years. Like, I've now done that show not that far off of a quarter of my life.
Right.
It's so crazy to think back that far on it, So it was kind of cool that we're still doing it, and really haven't missed much. We've only had 1 or 2 weeks where we didn't put something up. And even then, we always put something up, whether it was a shorter thing or a little snippet of things we've done before. But, just crazy, much like this one, the fact we've been doing this one for, 5 years or whatever, too. It's just nuts. But anyway, so yeah, we talked a little bit about that and, video games we've been playing lately, Why the Last Man TV show coming out soon, the history of wrestling, which was a cool website that Henno found actually when him and I were talking last week, and just all sorts of stuff. We're just a lot of pop culture stuff this week, but whatever. So if you're into that, please check us out again, saltylanguage.com, and not safe for work. Remember that, please. You can find this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. We're on Facebook if you want to check us out over there at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. We're a part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. If you need help, please reach out. There's, all sorts of things and resources out there to help. You just got to ask for help, which again, me and Jen have both been there. It's tough. We understand, but you can do it. And of course, if you, check on your friends, make sure they're doing okay. Things are still crazy for a lot of people. They're still, it's weird. I hadn't thought about it. Like, I was talking with a friend of mine in Australia, and she was talking about how, like, she's still not able to get, or I think she got her first vaccination shot, finally. And in my head, I'm going, geez, it's so wild, because you think about it, and you think about how there's still other countries that are not even anywhere near where we are, as far as, the access to these things and stuff. And it's like, man, and there, so when there's a surge or like this variant or whatever, it's like, it's even scarier for some of those people. And it's something like I was saying earlier, it's like, yeah, kind of pump your brakes a little bit and go, wow, like there's a level of empathy that I have for people in these countries, or, a friend of mine in Toronto just got her second vaccine. And it was just because it was not available. Like, it wasn't even it wasn't like, well, I don't really want to get it. It was just, it wasn't available.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hitting those points. So it's, especially if you're on Twitter and talking with other people, try to keep that in mind too, that, some of these other countries are not anywhere near where the U.S. is as far as the availability of them, and that sometimes these outbreaks and these things, if people in other countries are acting differently, it's because their situation is much different than ours is here. So, keep that in mind. And like I said, checking on people, make sure they're doing okay. And then, of course, please be kind to one another. Like, just please put good vibes out there. We all need them. There's just so much to be angry and scared about that it's just so nice when you kind of have those moments with, like, a stranger especially, where you can kind of bond over a little something. So just try to be nice when you're out there, says the guy who trucked a kid. But,
All right. With that, everybody go out there and have the best week you possibly can. And remember, it's just as easy to think and say good things as it is to think and say bad. So choose good. All right. Wiggle those toes, folks.